I'm Larry Richardson with SeaLevelRiseRealEstate.com. Now I'm very excited about our new book, the 2021 edition of 7 Sea Level Rise Real Estate Questions for Buyers, Sellers, Owners, and Real Estate Agents has been released. I just put it on Amazon.com. It's in paperback and Kindle form. And the reason I'm really excited about this year's edition is it's really beefed up from last year. I have added a bunch of new information about the latest developments over the last year since the first edition, about how sea level rise itself and global warming are progressing in tandem, and we are seeing more flooding up and down the coast in the United States. So that's a problem, and you need to understand what's going on with that before you can decide how involved to get in real estate in coastal communities. So the next thing that I've added into it is detailed descriptions of what happens when floodwater shows up in a neighborhood, and also what happens when the floodwater hits a specific property. You're going to need to know that. The other thing that I deal with is what happens when communities start to try to deal with sea level rise. It's an issue for individual property owners because you might all of a sudden find that they're going to put a 10-foot seawall in front of your house, which might take away your view, or they might put in a pump station, or they might start a project that's going to last 10 years. So these are the kinds of things that you need to know that I'm going to show you how to get started, how to understand what's going on with sea level rise and how it might impact a property of interest. The other important point that I make in the book is about due diligence. So what is due diligence? Due diligence is going to multiple sources. In this case, it's going to multiple sources to find out whether a property floods, how bad the flooding is, and what can be done about it, what's going to be done about it. This will help people to make informed decisions when they're dealing with coastal real estate, especially coastal real estate at risk of sea level rise flooding. Now, why can't you just go to one source to find out whether a property floods? Like take the seller, for instance. Well, unfortunately, our seller disclosure laws from state to state, they vary greatly. So some states like Texas and Louisiana have very strict rules. Other states like Florida are kind of like middling when it comes to sellers' disclosures. And states like Virginia at this point are pretty much let the buyer beware. You're pretty much on your own. So you can't rely on the seller to tell you whether the property floods or not. In fact, even in a strict state, the seller might still go, hey, I'm not going to tell them that. So that's a risk. So then you're thinking, well, I'll turn to the real estate agent. Well, not every real estate agent knows every single property or even neighborhood, unfortunately. I live in a town where a lot of realtors don't realize the extent of coastal flooding that we experience from sea level rise, especially during the king tide season in the fall. So you can't always count on them. And then you might say, well, then I'll go to the city will tell me. Well, again, the city might not know that specific property floods, and they might not know the details. Now, if you went to the city and you pulled permits, you might get an idea of whether there's flooding or not, because then you can find out if any repairs were made. You could also go to a flood insurance provider, and they might be able to tell you what's going on with that property. But, again, in this case, you have to rely on the seller to order a clue report for you. That will tell you if there's been flooding for like the last 5 to 7 years. But even then, if their insurer didn't participate in the clue project, it's basically a database, the information might not be there. So really what you have to do, and what I explain in the book, is you have to go to multiple sources of information. I mean, even down to the level of the neighbors. Nobody knows flooding and what's going on in a neighborhood more than the neighbors. But then again, they have a vested interest. So will they give you all the information you need to know? I don't know. But in the book, I explain what resources are available to help you to perform due diligence, and also the different questions you need to ask those resources. So please take a look at the book, 7 Sea Level Rise Real Estate Questions for Buyers, Sellers, Owners, and Real Estate Agents, and take a look at my website, SeaLevelRiseRealEstate.com. I think you're going to find a lot of useful information there, and I will keep on posting videos about this very important issue. So I'll see you soon.